Hello and welcome to Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show, we're going to be looking at how we can design some live stream assets, some overlays, some animations, all of the fun things in DaVinci Resolve. We are going out live to all the various places, so let me know in the chat where you're watching from. It's great to have your company today. So let's just get stuck in. Let's go over to DaVinci Resolve. I've actually created a new local database to try and organize some of the things that I've done previously. So I guess what we need to talk about first is some examples, and I'll talk about the project that I want to build out today. So if we go to the logo stinger, for example, this, and I'll go back to the beginning and we'll just play this through. And all that really happens here, although something just occurred to me, I need to press one more extra button. Hello, Cheryl, great to have your company today. In fact, I have to press a few extra buttons today. There are lots of things happening in my world. Lots of moving parts. So let me just make sure I've got my Mix It Up chatbot I don't want to update that right now. I just want to sign in. And we'll get back to the project. Okay, awesome. So again, let me just talk you through what this one does. It happens pretty quickly. All that happens is there's the John Lacey logo. It's in white. It fills the screen. We scroll through a little bit. It gets smaller and smaller. You can actually see some transparency under here. And this is actually why this is a logo stinger. There'll be parts of the transition where you can see what's actually on screen and other times where you won't see anything at all. And then it actually flips and the background becomes black and the center part becomes transparent, and then it zooms out as well. So that's just a transition. I built that out on the channel some time ago. I'm not actually using that one at the moment very often, so maybe we need to have a look at that as well. But let's have a look at another classic example, and I think I can demonstrate this one in real time if I press this button. Okay, it made a liar out of me again. Let me just find that really quickly. That's so annoying. I don't know what that is. Let's try this one. Like and subscribe. So it's literally just the words like and subscribe popping up on the screen. And again, I've done a few different variations of this, so I'm not really sure which one this is, but let's have a look. It's definitely not this one, but this was another sort of one where I was showing how we could actually have things animate onto the screen. And I kind of prefer the version I went with more than that one. Hello, Business Growth Ready. Hope you're having a great time in your part of the world. All right, so again, neither of these are probably that exciting outside of the context in which they should be used, but there are a few things I want to note. And first of all, transparency plays a big role in these animated overlays because we kind of want to see what's underneath as well. So the idea for me is that I would create these things, I would export them in a format that supports transparency, and we'll talk about that in more detail later on. And then I would actually bring them into OBS and I would have them pop up on the screen, and you know, it should actually just pop up when it's ready. It is really weird because I can literally see, in fact, let me just bring that up. I'm slightly annoyed by something that OBS is doing to me in the back end. I'm going to bring that right up to the top. There we go. Like and subscribe. All right. So the idea is that we can have those things on top of our scenes, on top of our camera. We can bring them in and we can animate different things. So what I want to do today, if we close out of this project, and I have created a new database here for live stream assets. So I'm trying to organize myself a little bit better in DaVinci just so I can find things more easily. I'm going to create a new project. And this one we're going to call YouTube. I'll call it YouTube CTA, call to action. So the thing about this is that, you know, I do go out live to usually 4 different places. So I go out live to LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. But really, I want to draw people to my YouTube channel first and foremost. That's sort of the destination I want them to come to. So what I'm going to do is actually create a bit of an animation that I can play at the beginning of the show, which just reminds people that for the best experience, they can head over to youtube.com/Athlon Livestreaming. Although I might actually use a redirect from my domain, which might make this a little bit easier. But I guess the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to open up a folder on my computer somewhere. I might move this to the other screen. You guys don't necessarily need to see how badly organized all my files are on my computer. But what I want to do, and what I kind of encourage you to do if you're in this situation where you want to create overlays, is just go into your streaming software. It doesn't really matter too much what it is. But grab a screenshot of the layout that you are using. And for me, it's generally like just me in the center of the frame, which is not terribly exciting, but it is what it is. But there have been times when I've co-hosted shows with other people, and that's a really good way of working. So I'm just gonna see if I can find some sort of image that'll be representative of this. So I'm just gonna drag this over to DaVinci, and hopefully it'll do its thing. In fact, I'm going to open up, so we've got the media pool there, but I guess the other thing too, and I probably have to go back in the archives some way to actually do this, if you do have a different setup. So, I mean, I don't really have a good example of this off the top of my head. It's certainly not on this computer, it's probably on the other computer. In fact, let me just give you... But essentially, like a lot of the times when I was hosting with Sam, we would literally have us side by side. And what I recommend is that it's often a really good idea to actually just grab a screenshot of that and then work around it. So I might just temporarily... Actually, I was going to drag something in. I don't think DaVinci's actually going to support an MKV file in that format, so that's not going to work. I'll come back to that potentially, but anyway, let's not dwell on it too much. But essentially, you want to think about, you know, what you're going to actually have on space, because you don't on screen, so you don't want these things competing. Secondly, we want to think about how long our animation is going to be. So I'm gonna just imagine that this should be 30 seconds. So in fact, yep. So let's just drag that out. And again, this is just a guide. We won't actually export this with the final video. But now we want to think about some of the elements that we actually want on screen. And there are actually 2 different approaches to this. And I do want to explore both of them. And I'll do one and I'll do the other one as time permits. I appreciate that sentiment, Business Clip Ready. I do. I don't do anything on, like, I go out live to Twitch just because it's a thing that I've got. I don't really care if it goes away, to be honest. So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I appreciate the context there. All right, cool. So let's think about what we actually want to do in here. And I guess what I want to do in here is bring in some text and maybe some background color as well. Let's go to our effects panel, because I guess in some ways, probably what we want to do is think about some titles and generators. So let's have a look at the generators first. And I mean, we do have all these weird, wonderful generators. I'm just going to grab something that's a solid color, and I'm going to drag it onto my timeline. Obviously, that is huge, and it's covering the entire screen. Black might actually be a good option here, but I'm going to just change it to white for the moment. And let's go to our settings. I probably want to think about cropping this and repositioning it. So I'm not really sure how big I want this to be, so I'm just going to guess some random numbers here. You probably have a better sense of what your banner might want to look like. I actually don't think that's terrible. What about 600? Yep. Oh, okay. Probably 1,000. No, that's too small. All right, we'll say 900. Actually, we'll go back to 850. Yeah, and again, we can tweak these things to our heart's content later on. That essentially, I've just cropped the top from 820. This is just solid color. It's not that exciting. And in some ways, this is the point at which I could also crop in left and right. So if I don't want this to fill the entire section, I could certainly do that. And let's just go maybe 100. Maybe a little bit more dramatic. Say 200. I don't know if that's really what I want right now, but let's just keep going. So what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to drag this the full duration of my animation. I won't want it on screen for this entire period, but we'll come back to that in a second. Let's go and add another track. Let's think about adding a title. So we've got all these different titles, and I've downloaded even more. And I must admit, I'm really curious, actually, Business Growth Ready, if you have feelings about this too, but there are all kinds of sample packs and LUTs and effects and stuff you can download for DaVinci Resolve and other software, and I just find they're kind of fun, but I rarely have much use for them. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to grab the text plus. I'm going to go into my settings, my title settings actually, and I will go johnlacey.com/live. It is funny, all this talk about Twitch specifically, because BlueSky just released an integration with Twitch that you sort of have this little thing pop up on your icon that says live, and you click through and it'll tell you information about your live events. And I did try setting that up. In fact, it does say live right now. In fact, let me show you. This is such a side tangent, but yeah, so it says that I'm live. I think if I click here, it'll essentially, and this will be different for people that aren't actually me in this context, but essentially it'll send a link to my Twitch channel. And you know, I don't even have anything against Twitch. I'm super passionate about YouTube. I really want the YouTube to grow. So again, I might need to think about how I do this. Maybe I do need to be a little bit more subtle. But we'll figure that out later. So I'm going to change the color. I'm just going to make it black again. In a perfect world, I would have spent a little bit more time actually designing some of this stuff ahead of time, but let's just figure it out as we go. Open sans semi-bold sounds pretty good. Let's think about our settings. So our positions are under here. So again, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I do like playing with numbers in these boxes. I don't always know which direction I'm going in either, but that's fine. Let's say 800. No, clearly that's too many. Say 400. No. 600. Okay. So what I will do, I've got my 400 in here. I'll just use my cursor. There we go. I'll use my cursor key to bring that down. Okay, so I probably wanted a negative amount anyway. So let's say negative 200. Negative 400 is probably more likely what I'm after. Then I probably want to get a little bit granular because I kind of want that a little bit more centered within that frame. I think that's okay. So Business Growth Ready writes, I think that applies with most things, plugins, fonts, extra templates across all kinds of software, very rarely used beyond the standard. And it is interesting because I I was looking at the Humble bundles yesterday, and they do have some audio and video things, and a part of me was really tempted, and another part of me thought, it's probably not a good idea. All right, what I might do, let's just go back to our title, because we don't need this n/. I think that's fine. So I've got that there. I'm curious. I genuinely don't know, to be honest, if I can do this, but I'm going to try selecting some of this text inside of my Text Plus and see if I can change the font of just that text. No, it looks like it does everything. Okay. I mean, I could potentially add another section of text if I wanted this to be in bold, but I actually don't think that's terribly important. But I did like the way the extra bold looked, so let's try that. And again, now that I've got some text here, I might even see if I can adjust the cropping of this a little bit more. 300 may be too aggressive. No, actually 300 looks pretty good. Okay. I think that works. All right. Hey, Roy. Hey, Tech Troublemaker. Thanks for joining us. Great to have your company today. So today we're just designing some live stream assets in DaVinci Resolve. And again, these are just things that we can, you know, set up on our Stream Deck and press a magical button and have things like, you know, this pop up, like and subscribe. We can have banners. We can do all kinds of different things. And I guess the other thing too, and I keep talking about this because I kind of need to keep reminding people, but I do have a birthday next week. I'm really hoping to get to 900 subscribers on YouTube. That would be a really awesome birthday present. I'm not entirely sure how we're going on that front, actually. Let me just have a quick look. 895, so I only need 5 more to go. So that would be really, really cool if it happens. But I guess the other part of this is, as part of this overlay, I kind of want a little animation probably to the left of this, just indicating something about this push to 900 subs. And I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to animate this, because it may be a little tricky to do. So what I'm going to do, we could potentially play with this banner for the rest of the time, but I think it's kind of fine the way it is. I'm going to select both of those clips, and I'm going to add them to a compound clip. I'll just call this banner. And there we go. We've got those two things as one now. So what I could potentially do, and I just want to give you a sense of how easy this is. We don't need to be, because people are scared of DaVinci Resolve in the way that they're scared of OBS, and you don't need to be scared of either of them. You only need to use what you need to use. But what I do want to do, let's actually go to our video transitions, and I kind of want to think about how I want this to animate on and off the screen. So the great thing about this is if I hover over some of these transitions, so they're not going to show me the compound clip now that I've done that. Okay, that's kind of annoying. It's showing me the thing that's underneath it, which again is only a placeholder. We will actually get rid of this when we export this video. But I guess conceptually you can sort of see it applied to that as well. So I think what I will do, and again, we can try all different things, see how they work. We can undo them. I'm going to try the block glitch, and I'm going to put that onto the beginning of my banner, and I'm going to put it on the end of my banner. Now if we go back to the beginning and play this through, you'll see that it sort of glitches onto the screen. I could adjust the duration of this one if I want it to maybe be a little bit longer. Okay, in some ways that only increases the delay before it starts, so that might not be a great example. The other thing too, and I keep forgetting that I have the speed editor here in front of me, but I think theoretically I should be able to extend the duration. Yeah, so if I hold down the trans dur, duration, transition duration. That's abbreviated, and actually just hold that down, and then I can move the jog wheel around. I can make that longer or shorter. I can just come in here and delete this, and I think this is what I will do because I don't think that's really how I want to play. But we have a lot of things in here, and I guess in some ways what we do need to be conscious of is that these are fun, but they're not distracting. And again, it's kind of only previewing it on the thing that's underneath it, although that effect actually does everything, evidently. Oh, actually, was it applied to both? I'll get rid of it from here. We'll see what that looks like. See, that's incredibly distracting. I wouldn't recommend that one for this purpose. Box wipe. In fact, there's a really good chance all I want is a slide or a push here. And again, I could probably just animate this with my keyframes as well. But let's just try a slide. We'll go slide left. Actually, no, we'll go slide up and we'll go slide down. So we'll slide it up into the frame and we will slide it down out of the frame. Okay, that's okay. It's the one thing I do find a little distracting about this particular one is you can actually see it in reverse, and again, you have to look really, really careful for this. But you can kind of temporarily see it at the top of the frame upside down, which is kind of weird. I don't love that. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's maybe try a push. That's something I've been using in all my other projects lately. It's a bit of push. Ooh. Okay, so I'm just going to search here. I'm going to type in the word push. I'm going to bring that over to the beginning and bring that to the ends. And it actually defaults to push left. So I might even, like, let's just for argument's sake, let's just leave it on push left and see what that looks like. I'm starting to think 30 seconds may be a little bit long for this one. In fact, let's actually go to about 15. Let's make this shorter. So I'm going to drag both of those to that point. Even that feels kind of long. Let's let's do 10 seconds. All right. All right. So we've got that there. We'll push left. I actually don't dislike that, but what I might do, can I edit my compound clip from here? Maybe I need to go back to, all right. So I guess now that I've got my compound clip, open in timeline, there we go. All right, so if I want to make additional changes to my compound clip, I can go in here and do that. What I might do is, and I'm probably being really pedantic about this. It's probably not a big deal. And again, I'm just making up some creative decisions as I go along, which is probably not exciting to watch, but let's just do it together. In fact, I'm going to try 360 for both of these. Because what I do want to do is make sure I've got sort of some space either side of this for the additional animation. So, all right, that's cool. We'll go back to timeline 1. I'm pretty sure that, yep, that change will be reflected here. I guess the other thing too is I think it's really important for contrast reasons to think about the color combinations, because even if I take something like this like and subscribe thing that I keep flashing up on the screen, that looks pretty good on a dark background, but the minute you share a Google Doc that's in light mode and put that on, as I did in a recent episode, you'll see that it doesn't work. So in some ways, I'm thinking about black and whites. I'm thinking about shadows or outlines, just to have some visual separation, because although I've got this here, there's no guarantee that that will be the thing on the stream when I want to use this animation. So let's go back to, in fact, what I'll do, I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of this, but I'm going to go back to my effects and let's think about our titles. Again, I might, actually, let me just clear that because I was searching for push previously. Let's go to multi-text plus, or text plus. But actually, let's go to multi-text. Let's try that. So the great thing about the multi-text, as the name kind of implies, is hello, Quilts and Chocolates, great to have your company. The great thing about the multi-text is that we do have the ability to have lots of multiple lines of text, essentially. So push to 900. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go push to, I'm going to add some text. If I can, if it'll let me. Point layout, text box layout. Okay, so I do have these different options. So in some ways, I think text box layout might be good. Okay, 900, and I'll do that again. Subscribers, it might just have to be subs. It might be too large otherwise. Okay, so what we can do now, think about the sizing, the positioning. I'm going to adjust the size of this, say push to. I think 900 actually is probably, could even be bigger. And maybe even subs could be bigger. Just a fraction. All right. What I will need to do though, is if I go to my layout, I'm going to bring subs down a little bit if I can. So probably the center point. There we go. That's probably a bit too dramatic. There we go. Something like that. But what I'm going to do too, I'm going to reposition this whole block. So at the moment, it's centered. It's probably not obvious, but essentially I think this is filling the 1920 by 1080 frame. But I just want to sort of bring this down. Let's go negative, I don't know, 400. Okay, cool. Let's go negative 400 as well. Maybe a bit further. Okay. So that's negative 800. Let's bring this up a little bit because we can't actually see all of it. All right. And in some ways, I think this is a little bit too big. And I could go in and adjust all the text individually, but we do just have the zoom options. I think what we could do is let's just make this whole thing smaller. These two things are linked, so they will be resizing in proportion. So that's always good. So just that, let's just reposition this somewhere in between. All right, let's go back to our title. And again, this is a good example of, I don't know what the background will look like because ultimately we're going to get rid of the backgrounds and we're going to have a transparent video. So let's think about how we can make this a little bit more prominent. I'm going to see if I can change the 900 specifically to extra bold. All right, I like that. But the other thing too is we have this magical shading tab. And this actually gives us a whole bunch of different options. And I think in this context, I probably do want an outline or, you know, something in the background. Again, I'm thinking very much black and white, so I'm going to go black. At the moment, the thickness is tiny, so let's bring that up a little bit so we can actually see this thing. All right, I'm going to put a number and see what happens. We'll go 20. Yep. Did that do anything at all? No. All right, let's try 200. Oh, wait a second. Am I on the fill? Oh, that is the outline. Oh, I've got to click the enable button. So I click the enable button and now it's massive and it's overshadowing all kinds of things. So let's go back and we'll try maybe 10. Did that do anything? All right. Let's go back to like 0.5. Okay. We're getting in the ballpark. Oh dear. Okay, so we want an outline. We kind of want it smaller than that, I would suggest, though. There we go. I think that's kind of more in the ballpark of what I'm looking at. So we do have that. We've got push to 900 subs. Again, I'm probably inclined to do something very similar for the other portions of this text as well. So let's go to subs. We'll do a similar thing. We'll do the outline. We do also have a shadow option in here, which is really cool. I'm just going to pick black. Again, make sure we enable it because we won't see it otherwise. And you really can sort of see how granular you want that to be. So that's pretty cool. So I think 10 actually looks pretty reasonable here. I think that's it might be a problem actually with the push to, because I think the more outline we add, the harder it'll be to actually read this stuff. So let's just see what we can do. And it could even be that maybe we want a shadow. In fact, let's try a shadow. Let's try something different. Let's enable our shadow. Let's think about the position. So the position's okay. The opacity, the alpha, the softness. So again, if I adjust that, that is pretty subtle. So in this case, I don't think a shadow is really going to get me there. It may be better on larger text, but let's just do our outline thing again. And not red, although I guess the other thing that we could maybe do is think about some contrast here as well. So instead of having this outline be black, maybe I go white. Maybe I change the text color to black. And we think about that. And again, let's adjust the thickness. I think 10 was 0.1 is a good starting point. I think that's okay. Oh. It's one of those weird things that every time I hit the enter key, this actually jumps around to a different place on my screen, which is incredibly annoying. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try something different here. I think let's actually leave that as is. I think the push to is fine. Let's actually do a similar thing that we did for our banner. Let's actually just go and find our generator and let's just get a solid color. And we do have gradients as well. I probably needed to mention that at some point, but I'm very much gonna keep to this sort of black and white idea. So let's go to our generator. I'm gonna make this one white. And again, we're gonna do all the same sort of things that we did earlier with the cropping. In fact, in some ways, cropping, let's actually try zoom instead. Let's actually just make this smaller, first of all, because we're not going to need a whole lot of this. And let's just adjust the positioning, the X and Y. So I think about 800 was where we were before. All right, that's fine. Minus 400. Okay, so we're in the ballpark. That's exciting. And again, I'm just going to play with this. In fact, that already looks a lot better. And really, all I'm trying to do is have a block of color for our push to. So I might even leave it like that. I'm going to crop the bottom. Again, I'm not really sure what values I'll need, so I'm just going to make something up and we'll figure it out as we go along. All right, probably needs to be in the hundreds though. All right, that didn't do a lot. There we go. Okay, that's good. Getting better. And I'll just adjust the position. There we go. Push to 900 subs. Okay. I guess the thing about this is I kind of like the idea of the multi-text because I can have all the text together. But if I didn't have the text all together, I probably could animate parts of this individually in a way that's probably much easier. But I think for today, let's just roll with what we've got. So if I play through this now, you'll see that we've actually got the banner appear at the bottom, and we have our little thing come in. I probably want the push to 900 subs to sort of come in after the banner's gone through it. So let's just find out where that point is. So around here. And again, I can just trim both of those in to that point. I'm doing this with the speed editor, but you could just use the mouse. All right. It's not very dynamic at that point, and it's one of those things that maybe we could actually have something. In fact, I think that's an interesting thought. Let's think about our video transitions. Again, I kind of just want to dwell on the things that might be good for that little section. In fact, I'm going to search for burn, and we'll just see what burn options we have, because I think that's a thing. Burn away. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if that's going to actually, yeah, I don't think that's going to work because I'm not sure what parts of that are transparent and which aren't. And in fact, I suspect most of it isn't. So let's not worry about that. What about a dissolve of some description? All right, let's just try a dissolve, and I'm going to put it on both the text and also the underlay. And there you go. It sort of animates on screen a little bit. I don't know that that's very exciting, but it is what it is. Let me just bring that transition duration in a bit. Okay, I don't think it's really improved by that at all. In fact, in some ways, I think what we will do, let's animate some keyframes. So let's go to both of these. And I want to animate all of this, so I could potentially just have a compound clip again, but let's not worry about that right now. Let's go zoom. Let's go X and Y position, just turning those keyframes on in the panel. Let me decide where I actually want this to happen. So I'm just gonna click on the keyframe diamonds besides both of those. And again, I will open up my keyframes panel. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. So it looks like it's only applied the keyframes to the multi-text. So I'm going to copy these. It's interesting that it didn't want me to do that at the same time. So I'm going to try this. I'll just turn these on here. We'll go back to the multi-text. We'll go back to where this is. And again, because I haven't actually changed any of these values, I'm just telling it to be aware of potential changes that I haven't really made yet. So what I'm going to do, and again, I suspect this is probably not the best way of doing this, but this is just how I've been working. I'm going to go back just a little bit. I'm going to... In this case, I haven't changed these keyframes here, but I just want to put them in there again, and I'll do that for both the multi-text and the underlay little rectangle. Okay, so now let's go back to our keyframes here. What I just want to do is I want to pull this stuff off the screen. So let's go, I think, probably to our Y coordinate. Yep, here we go. So 750. Let's do that same number for this one. Oh, that's over here. Okay, cool. And you'll see that pops up on the screen. It is actually a little slow. So let's think about maybe bringing these keyframes back a little bit. And again, I will just do that for both of those. I mean, I could animate these separately too. So if I wanted the block of white to come in sooner, I could change that as well. But let's just see what that looks like. All right. I guess the thing that may not be obvious, and we probably won't have time to do today, is that because of the formats I'll be using to export this, we can also include audio, and you can have audio play through OBS Studio or whatever you happen to be using if it's supported. So it could be that I have some sort of sound effect as this pops up onto the screen, which again is something, because it's built into the video, the overlay, we don't need to dwell on it too much. We can press the button for the overlay, or we can set up OBS to show the overlay at some point for some reason, and it'll play the audio as well. I must admit, I haven't made great time in showing you this. So there was another way that I was going to show you this, which is actually going straight to the Fusion tab and building something there. And I have actually done a number of videos in the past on that, so we won't dwell on that too much today. What I will do, let's actually turn off our backgrounds. I guess the thing that we probably do want to do is actually probably just reverse this towards the end as well. So go some way here. I'm going to paste those if I can, if it'll let me. Maybe it won't. I guess they haven't really changed. So I can just press these magical buttons here. Again, I'm probably adding more keyframes here than I need. And I'll show you why I kind of want to do that in a second. Let's actually go back to our first keyframe on the multi-text, and I'm going to adjust the zoom a little bit. So again, these things are linked, so they will happen at the same pace. In this case, I literally can't see what I'm doing because it's off screen. But I'm actually going to bring that down to 0.1. And let's just see how that animates now. Okay, it doesn't change at all. All right, that is interesting. So if I go, and I definitely had the multi-text, yep. So okay, it hasn't updated that value. I'm not sure why. Oh, okay. I think I've put another keyframe. No? All right, let's just go between those. All right, I'm going to try that again. And it might just be too subtle for us to see, but at least I think that actually stuck. And it is very subtle, but you can see it's getting ever so slightly larger as we go ahead. So let's maybe just do that. And I do think I put in an extra keyframe there somewhere. If I zoom in a little bit, I suspect... No, looks about right. But, I mean, that is very subtle, but you can sort of see it. All right, I don't have a lot of time to build out anything too exciting at this point in time. So what we're going to do, let's keep going. And I'm going to turn off this video. In fact, I'm going to delete this video. We don't really need this video anymore. I say video, it's not even a video. It's a screen capture of what I'm building around. So let's get rid of this. Let's go to our little rocket ship, which is our deliver page. And now we want to export this in a format that supports transparency. That will be QuickTime. So that's an Apple codec. What we really want to do, and again, it's been a little while since I've done this, so it'll be really interesting to see if I remember how this works. But essentially, QuickTime... I think there was actually a specific transparency option in here somewhere. And I'm not sure that I'll remember where it is. I might need to go and watch my own content to remind myself. So QuickTime, Apple Res, CineForm, photo uncompressed. All right, I need to think about this for a second. In fact, what I will do, I'm going to go to my own YouTube videos because this is always exciting when I have to go through my own archives to try and remember what I did a year ago. So we'll go to live, our overlays. Show me something cool. No. And, you know, while I'm stalling for time, I'll press this magical button again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do have a birthday next week. I'm really hoping to celebrate with 900 subscribers. I think we need another 5 to make that happen. All right, cool. I think I found this video. And I'm just going to mute YouTube in the background, and we'll just see if I can find this quickly. Oh dear, isn't it great to be here in 2026, trying to remember things that you've done in the past. I'm sure none of you ever remember, ever forget anything either. I'm sure it's just me. It's just me. In fact, it might be more fun actually if we just sort of skip to the part of me trying this. And it's funny, I did... the other thing too is if you go look at this create show assets for live streaming video from the 29th of March 2025, I've done some other projects and I've actually done those in Fusion, so that might be a way of going. I'm not really sure where in this video I actually exported it. Look, let's just have a go. I'm completely blind here, but that's all right. Let's just try that. Timeline resolution best. I'm sure there's a setting in here. Presets, high quality. All right. I'm just gonna export this. Let's just see what happens. So I'm gonna select a folder. Let's go to DaVinci. Let's go. Create a new folder, and we'll say live streaming assets. In fact, I'm just going to move that inside of this folder. I have a feeling this isn't going to work, but let's just roll with it. It's always a learning opportunity. Let's render that. All right. I'm going to open the file location. All right, I do have my video here. It does basically do what I want it to do, but again, I'm just not sure if I feel like there's a setting I'm forgetting, but what I will do, this does render actually in a very large QuickTime file if I have selected the right one. I have a feeling I may not have, but QuickTime ProRes. Yeah. Okay, so ProRes, let me just show you that actually. If I right click and go show more options, properties, that's not a massive file, so there's a really good chance I haven't done this correctly, but let's just, I just want to show you Shutter Encoder. So I'm going to bring this over and drag my QuickTime file. I want to actually export this to, I think, WebM from memory. And yeah, so I am so rusty. I'm literally going to have to go and watch my own tutorial to remember how to do all of this, which is not a great look, and I do apologize. So essentially what I can do is I can go in here and potentially export this to the right format, which will make it smaller. It'll make it load more quickly. This is incredibly annoying. All right. And I've got some Twitch spam because of course I do. User options. Let's block that person. Okay. So always hidden under, okay. V9. Okay. Here you mean? All right, I will, like, this is a point at which I really will have to go back to my former self and try and suss this out. So, just to give you a sense of this, by the way, we have done a video on this front, and I have a feeling it's probably much earlier. This, by the way, is kind of the thing I was alluding to at the beginning of this show, is that if you do have a live stream overlay, like if you do have a setup where you've got a number of different people there, take that screenshot and work with it in that way. But what I want to do, that was just showing some image overlays. And again, as long as you've got a format that supports transparency, that can work really, really well. And I've got my banners. I couldn't actually find my banner files, and I kind of want to recycle them for a few extra new things. But let's just see if I show the point at which I actually export this. Stinger. I love that I'm essentially doing a reaction video to myself at this point. It's kind of hilarious. Okay, I don't see that I actually export this, which is so annoying. Surely I do this somewhere. All right, well, I don't think I'm gonna solve this in the next little bit. What I'm gonna do, let's just search the internet and we'll go export QuickTime with transparency in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, let's try some things from the wisdom of the internet. So they're recommending QuickTime and CineForm. That GoPro CineForm. 16-bit. Square. And we'll try RGB 16-bit color. Export alpha. That's what we want. Okay, so let's let's summarize that. So QuickTime is the format, GoPro CineForm, RGB 16-bit, and then under the frame rate section, there's this option called Export Alpha. Let's click Add to Render Queue. Let's replace the existing file, and let's re-render. Okay, that's better. Now, if I go back to Shutter Encoder, let's just clear that file. Let's grab this again. I have so many windows open, it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so let me just see if I can suss this part out as well. So translate, colorize, cut without encoding. Editing codecs, output codecs. VP9, that's what, okay, yep. I think that's what business growth ready. And there we go. We can actually see this checker pattern, which gives me hope. So the great thing about this is that this will produce a much smaller file. So let me just, I've got my settings here. Let's just hit the start function button. It'll do its thing. All right. So just to give you a sense of the differences in size, the original video was only 120 megabytes. Admittedly, there's not a lot going on there. The additional one is 894 kilobytes. So that's a lot smaller. Now, what I will do, let's do this really quickly. I do want to give you the full experience. So if we go over time, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to go and grab my portable version of OBS Studio so we can bring this up. Let's turn that on. In fact, I'm just going to turn off the screen share for a second while that loads in the background. All right. I don't want to run updates, but thank you nonetheless. So we'll go new and we'll say stream overlay. Okay, let's go back to our screenshot. So this is an OBS. Again, I would probably want to put my, in fact, let's do that. Let's actually, I want to go to my virtual camera options. I'm going to pick a specific scene. I'm going to say that one there. All right, so what you would do is you'd actually come in here and add your video capture device. In this case, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to bring in my OBS virtual camera. And we can come in here and we can actually add our media source. In fact, what we can do as well is I can literally drag this file into OBS. Okay. So we can see the problem here is that it hasn't actually preserve that transparency. So there's probably a setting in there I missed. Let's actually go back to Shutter Encoder, which I've closed. So I'll open that up again. All right, so drag the timeline over. All right. So VP9. So let's just double check. There's probably a setting in here somewhere. Overlay, advanced features, preserve. We do not want to lower. All right. Well, I mean, let's. I'll do some research. We'll have to do an updated version of this when I actually remember things. But just for today's purposes, I'm gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna just bring in my movie. Hopefully, it really has preserved that transparency. So there we go. We've got that there, and all I really need to do is sort of toggle the visibility on when I want to play this. Or I could actually just have this come in at different times. So that's basically what I kind of want to do. Again, I probably need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and think about visually how I want this to look, and if I do want to incorporate some audio, because I think some audio actually would be really fun if there was a bit of a sound effect when that happens. I think that could work really, really well. I'm curious, actually. The loop isn't on, so that's fine. So I don't need to worry about that too much. But again, I'm gonna do this really annoying thing where I literally have to go back to my earlier live streams to remember how I did things. So that's the joy of aging, and I will be getting even older in a couple of days' time, so that'll be fun. But don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope conceptually this has been interesting nonetheless, and if you do want a much more coherent version of this, go and check out the other video on the old YouTube channel. But have a great week. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great weekend when you get there. I'll talk to you again very, very soon.